Another Thursday in October, another fun Halloween themed treat. Let's bake. So, welcome back. I hope you've all been well. If you're new here, I'm Rhonda. This is where I bake things and I talk about weird, random stuff that I kind of find amusing. And, you know, since now it's October, I'm kind of talking about haunted places because that's always fun. If that sounds like something you might also enjoy, then please consider subscribing. We are all familiar with Amityville. Amityville movie, the book, the whole thing. Maybe you read the book. Maybe you saw the movie. I personally didn't. Horror movies give me nightmares. Like, seriously, legit nightmares. Have to sleep with the lights on. And the last horror novel that I read was a Stephen King novel. Woke up 2 nights in a row in the middle of the night, and I swear the Moon Man was standing in my corner. Legit, slept with the lights on. I don't read Stephen King books anymore. But I do still read before bed. Just not Stephen King. That's not the point. What is the real story behind the Amityville house? Let's find out. It was early in the morning on Long Island in Amityville, New York, on November 13th, 1974, when 23-year-old Ronald DeFeo Jr. would walk through the home he shared with his family at 112 Ocean Avenue with a .35 caliber level action Marlin .336 rifle and murder his parents and 4 siblings while they slept. Ronald was the eldest of the children of Ronald DeFeo Sr. and Louise DeFeo, and was born September 26, 1951. According to some reports, Ronald Sr. was abrasive and abusive in personality, while Louise just kind of faded into the background. The family owned a car dealership, and they had a somewhat comfortable lifestyle. Ronald Jr. was said to have been a troubled teen and would turn to drugs and alcohol, you know, self-medication. At one time, Ronald Jr. actually threatened his father with a gun. This would lead to his parents giving him a weekly allowance and buying him gifts in hopes to appease the child, who wasn't really a child anymore. At the age of 18, little Ronald Jr. would start to work at the family business, but he would rarely show up. The day before the murders, he left work early, but nobody thought anything of it because, you know, it was Ronald. He went to the bar to go drinking with his friends. He would eventually leave, go home, and then at 6:30 on the morning of November 13th, he would run back into the bar and say, "Oh my gosh," quote, "you guys, you gotta help me. I think my mother and father got shot." People would then follow him from the bar back to the family home where they would be witness to the gruesome scene. All 6 members of the DeFeo family in the house were found shot to death as they lay on their stomachs in bed, which investigators, I guess, found kind of odd because, you know, you're shooting everybody up. Nobody wakes up. They're all laying on their stomachs. They're all dead. There were no drugs in their system. All told, the deceased was Ronald Sr. and Louise, siblings Dawn 18, Allison 13, Mark 12, and John 9. They'd been killed around 3:15 on the morning of November 13th, 1974. Ronald Jr. would come up with any number of scenarios, including that his sister Dawn killed their father, which led their mother to kill the rest of the children, leaving Ronald Jr. to kill his sister Dawn. Or that Dawn killed the entire family, and so then Ronald Jr. killed her. Or that a mob hitman by the name of Luis Fellini killed the family. Ronald would eventually confess to what everybody already knew, that he and he alone killed his family. But why? At his trial on October 14th, 1975, Ronald would claim that he heard voices in his head, presumably from the house, telling him to kill his family. So that's what he did. Excellent. So this is the backdrop of what was to come. Ronald Jr. would be convicted on 6 counts of second-degree murder and sentenced to 6 concurrent 25 years to life in prison. The house would be put up for sale, and it would be purchased by a newlywed couple, George and Kathy Lutz. So in December of 1975, the Lutz family would move into the alleged haunted house, having purchased the Dutch colonial that had 4,000 square feet, 5 bedrooms. They got it for a steal at $80,000 in 1975. Included in the mortgage, the Lutzes agreed to buy the furniture of the DeFeo family that was still in the house. Ew. Seriously, I don't think I'd want that. Like, at all. With the expense of the home, the courtyard, the view of the canal, that was a steal for the couple. They would move in with Kathy's 3 children from a previous marriage, but would stay only a short time in the home, not because of the horrific murder that occurred, but because it was haunted, allegedly. So the recipe that I found for this called for Hershey's special dark cocoa powder. I didn't have that. I had a different kind of dark cocoa powder. It also calls for Halloween baking chips. I didn't have those either. Work with what you got. Which, I didn't find it. Did you see any Yamola baking chips when we were at Walmart? Yeah, I think so. So I'm not going to worry about that. But I did find the Reese's Pieces. I did find some peanut butter chips, and I had some dark chocolate chips. And this is what it looks like. It's gonna be awesome. It smells fantastic. I'll give you this. It has less butter on it. He's like a child. It's okay. So anyway, soon after the Lutzes would move into the house, they said that they would start to experience things that were more than just the everyday hassle of owning a home. So they would claim that they saw red eyes in the windows looking in the house at them. Swarms of flies were always everywhere. Remember, this was December of 1975 in New York. Flies in your house in the winter. I don't think that's normal. Well, not north. We still kind of get them here in the south. But anyway. What else? Oh, cloven-shaped hoof prints would be seen in the snow, and a demonic voice would scream, "Get out." Kathy would have nightmares about the murders and said she felt herself being embraced by something unseen. George and Kelly claimed that they had seen the image of a demon with his head half blown off. Their daughter Missy is said to have been befriended a demonic red-eyed pig named Jody, George would hear the front door slamming even when no one else did, but the door was always closed when he went to check. Kathy claimed to have been levitated 2 feet above their bed and had red welts on her chest. The crucifix on the wall kept turning around until it was upside down. Blood and ooze was said to kind of come out of the walls. George would claim that he watched his wife transform into a 90-year-old woman. They would go on to claim that George would wake up each night at 3:15 a.m., the exact time the DeFeo family was murdered. They would hire a priest to bless the house, and the priest would claim that after throwing even just a splash of holy water into the house, he heard a loud, masculine voice demanding he get out. He would further claim that he developed a high fever and he got blisters on his palms, much like the marks of the crucifixion. This would lead the family to flee the home a mere 28 days after moving in, leaving all of their possessions behind. Could Ronald Jr. have been possessed by some evil spirit that lurked in the house? The home is said to have been built on an ancient Indian burial ground and probably radioactive waste. The Lutz family would tell their story to anyone who would listen, and they would soon turn that story into a best-selling novel and movie, which was also apparently remade in 2005. Only having ever heard the stories from others, I have no idea what artistic elaboration the author of the book or the directors of the movies may have taken. But it has led to some speculation as to whether or not the house is actually haunted. Some claim it was a hoax, which would lead Robert Jr. to later recant his statement that he heard voices. His attorney, William Weber, would claim that the Lutz couple approached him with a book idea about the house, saying, quote, "We created this horror story over many bottles of wine. It is a hoax." There's just one problem. The Lutzes were not a wealthy couple by any means, and would have allegedly been hard-pressed to take on a risk for some hoax in the hope for millions after leaving a house in such a short amount of time with all of their possessions. In fact, up until their deaths, they insisted that they were telling the truth about the home. One of their sons claimed that during their brief time at Amityville House, he was possessed by a spirit, and another son would claim to have seen the presence in the shape of a man move toward him and then disappear. But wait, there's more. William Weber would go on to sue the Lutz couple for, quote, taking the story of the haunting to another publishing partner. He would go on to demand a share of the profits made from the story to the tune of $60 million. The case would eventually be settled out of court, giving Weber $2,500 and an additional $15,000 for his services in connection with the book and movie. So was the house really haunted? It's a good question. The house has had several owners since the Lutz abandoned the home, none of which have ever claimed to have experienced any paranormal activity. One family, the Cromartie family specifically, would state the following. The house was originally built in 1927 and has 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. There's a swimming pool and a boathouse situated along a canal. Due to its haunted reputation and many looky-loos wanting to come and get a glimpse of this horror house after, either reading the book or seeing the movies, the address was changed from 112 to 108. Because publishing that information will keep people away from the house. They won't go. The creepy windows that look like demonic eyes that you see in like so many of the pictures, those have been taken out and replaced by regular rectangular windows, so it looks less spooky, I guess. There's been a lot of remodeling done to the house. As I stated, the Lutz family left the home and it would go into foreclosure in 1977, wherein it was bought by the Cromartie family, who would live there until 1987. They said they experienced nothing. They would sell the house to a family who stayed until 1997. That family then sold the house for $310,000 in 1997. The house was again sold in 2017 for a whopping $605,000. Stuck it all in the refrigerator. Give this a try. So, was the house haunted as claimed by the Lutz family? They took lie detector tests and passed, so I don't know. Which would lead one to question is, if it was true, why did they settle with that attorney for proceeds that they made from the book and the movie? Which, really, honestly, was a lot less than what that man wanted. He wanted $60 million and he settled for, what, $17,500? Well, the far cry from even close to $60 million. Not so smart for a lawyer. One other thing that is noteworthy about this is that Kathy Lutz claims to have discovered a secret room that did not appear in the original floor plans of the house. And it was painted blood red. That's kind of creepy. Which again calls into question the legitimacy of the house's actual haunted nature. They even called in the help of paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. And if those names sound familiar, they were involved in The Conjuring, I think is what it was. And if you've ever watched anything on the Discovery Channel, like there's a series called A Haunting, and they would occasionally show up on that series as well. People would call in their expertise. Anyway, what do you think? You think the house was haunted? Think it was just a hoax? Maybe the house just didn't like the Lutz family. I mean, everybody else seems to have been fine living there, except the Lutzes. So maybe the house didn't like the Lutz family. Maybe it was the house. The house was like, get out. Get out. So, who knows? Regardless, there are many horror fans that still hope to get a glimpse of the horror house, or even maybe get a look inside of it. Crazy times. And in case you're wondering, today's eyeshadow look brought to you by the world's worst Halloween candy, candy corn. Fight me. Okay. Cookies are done. They're very chunky. Very chunky. Oh, that looks like a skull almost. Maybe I'm just seeing things because I don't have glasses on. That's possible. Anyway. Like I said, I didn't have like everything and I used a different cocoa powder. I bet you they're still going to taste really, really good. Anyway, so. Got any spooky stories you want to share? Leave them in the comments. Got anything you'd like to see me talk about in a future episode? Something you'd like to see me make? Let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell icon if you enjoyed what you saw here and you want to see more. Until next time, happy haunting.